to me, if I saw some headline online of, how to, do something that I want to do, and the PDF was like, learn the 428 strata, and I'm like, I don't even want to download that. I don't even want to read it. It's too much. It's overload. It's static. So you don't want to feel like there's this new thing, authority positioning. Got it. I agree with everything you're saying, but now I got to spend the next 6 weeks learning something, and maybe, nope, takes you 2 hours. I'm doing it all for you, and then it seamlessly integrates with what you're already doing. That's huge. Just a couple things from clients I've worked with. Paul said after posting one podcast interview, he picked up enough business to cover 2 times the cost of the program. Steven said that the power of media with authority positioning, someone saw his TV interview and now got a lady interested in becoming a client. And Renee said that the first 2 action steps of using this increased her response from booked appointments from webinar 300%.
Hello, everybody. Brett Swartz here. I'm excited about one of our new strategic alliances, especially anyone who's in the financial advising world, particularly, and are looking to level up their ability to position and market and be the authority for their clients. Let's face it, if you're even working with ultra high net worth individuals or especially using advanced strategies like the deferred sales trust to help people exit, you're going to want to also position yourself as an expert in everything you're doing. And so we want to encourage you to level up as a financial advisor by connecting with and working with people like Mike Saunders. He is a president and CEO of Authority Marketing Strategist and founder of Authoritize Academy and Authority Hub. And he really is focused on the financial advising world. He's going to share with you some secrets today and some wisdom, but he's been featured on Forbes, Fox, CBS, NBC, ABC. And with that being said, I'll pass it over to Mike. Mike, how you doing?
Brett, thank you. Good morning. Thanks for having me. And I think this is such a powerful opportunity because I say this anyway, because 99.2% of my work is with advisors. And as we know, your competitors are one click away and you need to stand out and all of that. But even more so with your audience, where you're talking about a strategy that is not commonplace, it's a little unique, and it's got some explanation that is needed, and more importantly, it's got trust and credibility that you need to have baked in. And it's kind of like this is if you hear about something new and it's like, oh, where'd you hear that from? That sounds a little half baked. Where'd you hear that from? Oh, online. Oh, really? So I think that when people are mentioning, oh, hey, I heard about this strategy to reduce or eliminate or all of these things, I think that in people's mind they're like, I don't know. But if they hear about it from reputable sources, credible platforms, if you, the advisor, are interviewed on a Fox or an ABC News affiliate and you're using that in your marketing, now all of a sudden you're piercing through that doubt and the trust and credibility is there. So that's the whole premise of my work. And so I've just prepared a brief presentation here that I will get started, and then we'll show you how this actually works. So I've got a federal trademark on the phrase authority positioning portfolio. And it's kind of like a financial portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, IUL, annuity, whatever the financial product is. But an authority positioning portfolio is all of the assets that position you as an expert. I love to be able to say that this authority positioning portfolio optimizes your current marketing, meaning I don't have to say, buy my thing, stop doing other people's things. I don't need to say mine's better than the other people. I say, keep doing whatever marketing you're doing, whatever Facebook ad, email marketing, event, virtual webinar, dinner seminar, whatever you're doing will work better when people see you as an expert advisor. So being able to boost the effectiveness of your campaigns. Really, I'm an educator at heart. I teach marketing for a few universities online, and I just love when you can see that a specific strategy has some backbone to it. And I found this a couple years ago, and I thought it was so powerful that in 1901, Andrew Carnegie, who was the steel magnate, he was looking to retire, focus on philanthropy. JPMorgan, the banker, saw an opportunity, and he met with Andrew Carnegie, and on a handshake, purchased Carnegie Steel for $480 million, which is $10 billion today. And do the math, even if 10 billion didn't right, it's still multiple billions on a handshake. And I submit to you that this no longer would be the case, because you and I would not sell a $4,800 car on a handshake. So why would it work then and not now? Trust, credibility. People these days don't trust each other. And that's what it's like when we're talking about your family fortune, your retirement, your capital gain strategies, all of these things. And that's why that matters. So, a few questions just to kind of think about. Do you struggle attracting these high net worth clients because you know that you've got competitors? And secondly, do they not show up to your webinars? And then thirdly, do they come in going, "Oh, I heard about that thing, whatever it is, annuity, IUL, this strategy, that strategy, because I heard something." That's what we're going to solve today, because you have to remember something. When prospects find you, wherever they find you, they find your competition. And the trick, the problem is, the opportunity is getting those prospects to choose you, because most people love to buy, but they don't like to be sold. So how do we fix that? We teach, we educate, and we become that expert authority. And so what I do, like Brett was mentioning, my work is with advisors, and I spend 99% of my time, literally, that's all the work I do, is helping advisors and getting them featured on podcasts and network TV affiliate interviews and public relations and publishing their book and all of these things so that they stand out from the crowd. And this is a little bit of my work. Like you mentioned, I'm a member of Forbes Coaches Council. I've got several federal trademarks. My podcast is called Influential Entrepreneurs, won many awards, and I've done 1,500 episodes. And most podcasts these days, if you hit 100, it's like throw a party. That's amazing. 1,500 and rolling. It's really just a fun thing. Just thought I would give you a brief overview of kind of me. Started way back when with foreclosure, and it wasn't my foreclosure. I was 12, and my sister and I were standing in the front yard of my dad and mom's house, and here was this foreclosure sign, and we lost our house to foreclosure. We had to go live in my grandparents' literal one bedroom, half bath studio apartment downstairs. I slept in the work shop area. Literally, my sleeping bag was next to the lathe. So it was really seared into my mind from early on. Money and security is important. It's vital. It's paramount. And to be able to have that foundation of a house and a home, and where do you go? And I just remember that, and I feel like that was just seared into my memory to where I wanted to provide for my family. Then fast forward, when I got out of college, got my first job, and I did what everyone does, which is I'm going to use this little plastic rectangular piece of awesomeness called a credit card, and I'm going to buy stuff. And I did. And I woke up one day with $35,000 on credit cards, couldn't make minimum payments, was robbing Peter to pay Paul just to keep all that going. And I was sitting in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy office going, I gotta get this fixed. But I was filling it out, and this will kind of date me, because I was sitting there with a clipboard and a pen filling out a form, which these days it would be a iPad and a digital form. But I got up and I was like, I can't do this. So I walked out. I decided I'm not going to go and file bankruptcy. I just doubled down, and I learned some strategies, and I started working for JPMorgan Chase in the mortgage division, and really started doing extremely well, dug out of the credit card debt, and then hit a grand slam by providing home equity lines of credit, and started networking with advisors. So that's back in the early 2000s is when I started doing that. I literally became the number one producer for Chase for HELOCs in the nation 2 years in a row. They sent out a film crew and did a little segment on me to say, hey, how can other people do the same thing working with advisors? And then, as we all know, the 2008, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, it kind of drug on forever. The financial crash hit, and the mortgage industry was decimated. So I just got out. I went and did my MBA, but during that time frame, here I am with, zero business, working on my MBA, wife and 4 kids, and we had to go on government assistance to get healthcare coverage because I had 4 little kids, and started my MBA because I love, love, love learning. And at that point, I was like, okay, I feel that bug, that entrepreneurial bug. And this was in 2007 when all of this stuff started. And I started working and made all the mistakes that most new business owners make, which is being all things to all people. And once I decided, you know what, that's not working, I want to do one thing. I want to focus on authority positioning. Wrote my first book called The Prism Salvation. Used that book in a networking meeting, got a $9,000 contract, and the rest is history, because where I went from there is being able to take that that authority positioning and build this whole ethos, this whole network of authority for my clients. And this little picture here is what I provide. I focus on podcast positioning, PR positioning, TV positioning. All of that gives Google visibility. And let's face it, people these days do not Google best financial advisor in your area. Guess what they do? They Google your name and your company because maybe they heard about it from their friend, they got referred, or they saw your flyer, or they saw this dinner seminar coming up. They Google your name and your company. What will show up? Most of the time when I do this exercise with advisors, I see their website, their social media, broker check, and maybe a couple directories, and that's it. We want to see what's in that image down there, with all the arrows. We want to see, oh, look at that TV interview. Oh, look at that public relations press release. Oh, look at that podcast interview. So that's kind of what I do. And this is kind of a something that came to me one day because nobody wants to do business with a nobody. Let's face it, we all are jealous of our time. I don't want to go out and search and find someone that might possibly maybe be able to solve my problem of whatever it is, car mechanic, whatever the thing is, doctor. Nobody wants to do business with a nobody. And your prospects and the people that are these high net worth prospects doing these large transactions that are intricate, they don't want to do business with a nobody. So imagine what it would feel like to be the financial authority with the premier tier status. That's what we're after because you have to think about something. Birds of a feather flock together. These high net worth affluent prospects that are having these properties needing your help, they don't want to work with someone with an AOL email address. And believe me, I still work with advisors that still use AOL for email, Yahoo, Hotmail, and I'm not kidding. So research, we're not going to go in deep on this, but you just have to realize that most people, when they hear about something new, they're going to go out and research it just to kind of validate that. And if they research it and they cannot find something that is really, really valid and really, really something they can sink their teeth into, they're not going to pay attention to it. But if they can see that being featured in the media or a podcast on Spotify or Audible, now all of a sudden they at least give you the time of day. So when you're interviewing on podcast and TV, you're seen as the subject matter expert. And you have to realize that you're probably getting emails from people saying, go live on YouTube and Facebook and do videos. And all of that is wonderful because Google likes content and people want to learn. But they also know that you're promoting yourself. And there's zero wrong with that. That's wonderful. But the leg up you get when you're interviewed is when you use those interviews. Oh, hey, I was featured on this podcast where I talk about capital gains reduction, mitigating, all of a sudden now people listen to that learning, not feeling like it's a sales pitch because you're being asked questions. And that's huge. And a quick case study, you can Google this later, but just look up Stanley Milgram, Yale University. This just kind of shows the power of authority because what they did is they did this experiment on campus. They had someone in a white lab coat and a clipboard and someone behind the plexiglass, hooked up to electrodes. And basically they were asking someone, hey, ask these questions. And if they get the answer right, it's a green, light flicks on. If it's wrong, a red light, and they get a shock. And every new wrong answer gets worse and worse and worse. Shock. And the person behind the plexiglass is, feigning, faking, oh, it hurts. And it was just all an experiment. But literally when people were saying, I can't do this, the guy's getting electrocuted in there, they just kept their eyes down on the clipboard and said, please continue. The experiment requires that you continue. And they had this really interesting outcome. They predicted 3.73% of the subjects would continue, but in the first set, 65% administered the final fatal 450 volt shock. And what that tells us is the marketplace blindly believes the words of an expert. They're sitting there in this lab environment with a scientist saying, do this. And they're like, okay. And so we need to realize that we have the power to persuade, not sell and push, but the power to persuade because we know, what you offer is valid. With all of the audits, the IRS audits, pass. And with all of the legal and the CPA work that you provide to your clients to achieve this outcome, you've got a good thing. It's just a matter of convincing, persuading in a positive way. So the power of that authority is huge. Marshall McLuhan in 1967 wrote a book called The Medium is the Message. And he said the way we send and receive information is more important than the information itself. So this means where your content is seen gives as much value as the actual content. So you could write up the overview of how your program works, put it on a 3-page PDF and read through it and go, wow, I'm reconvinced. This is amazing. Send it out to people and they ignore it because it's a PDF. You put it on your blog and they ignore it because it's a blog post. You put it on LinkedIn, they ignore it because it's a social media post. But the minute that that same content is featured on an ABC a news segment with an interview with you being featured, or a podcast, or in a book, now people sit up and take notice and go, ooh, that's interesting. So it's the perception, it's the medium, it's the platforms that it's in. And if you guys aren't book readers, you need to be book readers, because leaders are readers, and you have to realize that there are some powerful books out there, one of which is Robert Cialdini's original book called Influence, but his more recent one is called Persuasion. And he says in this book, in order to be effective at persuasion, you have to understand persuasion. And persuading someone to take any action is the ability to get them receptive to your message before they experience or encounter that message. So you have to lay that groundwork. You can't just go sell, sell, sell. You need to educate and teach. And what better way to have this group of prospects that you're communicating with? And rather than just saying you should do this, buy from me, you should do this, buy from me, sending out this communication to go, hey, if you've ever been thinking about or wondering about or worried about, I was recently featured on, check this out and let me know what you think. And if you'd like to have a quick call, I'll be happy to help. Have a great day. That kind of an approach. That's persuading. And then when they actually meet with you, they've seen your authority, your expertise, and they come thinking the hope is, I hope they can actually work with me versus, oh, I've got another sales call with this person. So persuading someone is super, super powerful. I actually made this statement in a podcast and someone, really pinned it down and was like, ooh, that's a great quote. And I looked it up and it must have come from something I read online from the Association of Psychological Science, but you need to be credible so you could be incredible. So they said, we must be serious about our commitment to credibility. The result we'll produce in the long run will be better than incredible. It'll be credible, because too many times people just make these bold claims with nothing to back it up. We need to realize that trust and credibility is there. And then, of course, at the end of the day, come on, authority always wins, by our favorite 80s rocker, John Cougar Mellencamp. So credibility, trust, our currency. Just like money, it can be created, traded, earned, borrowed, and lost. Guys, we can give examples after example of each one of these. How could credibility and trust be created? How could it be traded, earned, borrowed, and lost? It's huge. We rely on it in things we do, of course, so you have to realize that your prospects are as well. I wrote a book, Amazon bestselling book called Authority Positioning for Financial Professionals. It's on Kindle and hardcover and paperback. You can see the prices right here. You can go buy it on Amazon, of course. I want you to, but I'm going to give you this opportunity. If you'd like to get a free copy, just go to MikeSaunders360.com. Click on the tab that says book, and you can either get the digital version for free immediately or just pay shipping for the paperback or hardback. You can either scan that QR code or just go to Mike Saunders 360, my gift to you. So this is something, as we kind of wrap up and start landing the plane here, this concept of premier tier status. I've heard it called category of one, whatever you want to think of it as. It's this shift in our mindset. You can't just have content out there that's in 20 different directions, selling this, talking about that. You need to have this authority platform. The internal shift is your mindset as a trusted authority. And let me just tell you something. One of the wins that you get in having this created for you is when you start seeing all of this out there and you start seeing your friends, family, prospects, clients, strategic alliances going, oh my word, I saw that interview you did that was a great job. And all of a sudden you're like, yeah, that's awesome. And you start seeing all of these things, which bolsters your own confidence, which then helps when you meet with and talk with your prospects and strategic alliances. And then the external shift of time and cost. Well, guess what? I've literally done presentations with people like Tom Hegna, who said, I wish I met you literally decades ago, because I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for what you do for pennies compared to that. This is a mindset shift that I'll just bring up to you here. Yes, using an authority positioning portfolio empowers you to get new clients. Check. But what about your current clients you have that you want to upsell, cross sell? So you might have clients right now that you have AUM that you're managing. Well, what if they need an annuity? What if they need an IUL? What if they have some property that you now need to work your program for here? When your current clients see you as that trusted advisor and being interviewed on and featured in, that helps them stay with you longer and by your recommendations that that you're recommending to them. And then also referrals. It's so easy to go, oh my word, hey, my money guy, my financial gal was just interviewed on, and let me send that over to you because maybe they talked to someone on the golf course, the gym, church, Rotary, whatever the case is. And whenever you're using these authority positioning assets to focus on getting out to your current clients as well as prospects, it gives them the opportunity to forward it on to their contacts, allowing referrals to happen. And then closing leads faster from whatever. If you buy leads, if you're getting leads, referrals, whatever the case is, it makes that sales cycle that much shorter. Remember this, authority positioning is not something you do and then go, did it, right? It makes all your other marketing work better. Secondly, this is not some new thing that now you got to spend an hour a day on. Nope. This integrates seamlessly into what you're already doing. So I love to be able to say, you can take probably 2 hours. This whole when I do a package for someone, which is a batch of interviews, TV, press, the whole shot, takes you 2 hours of your time done. Me and my team are building everything out. Then we do a Zoom session, show you how to use everything in what you're already doing because you already have a website, you already have social media, you're already emailing to people, you're already texting people, you're already doing all of this. But now when they see that you've been featured on and you're using these interviews as content marketing, which elevates your credibility, you're integrating this with what you're already doing. And to me, if I saw some headline online of, how to, do something that I want to do, and the PDF was like, learn the 428 strata, and I'm like, I don't even want to download that. I don't even want to read it. It's too much. It's overload. It's static. So you don't want to feel like there's this new thing, authority positioning. Got it. I agree with everything you're saying, but now I got to spend the next 6 weeks learning something and maybe, nope, it takes you 2 hours. I'm doing it all for you. And then it seamlessly integrates with what you're already doing. That's huge. Just a couple things from clients I've worked with. Paul said after posting one podcast interview, he picked up enough business to cover 2 times the cost of the program. Steven said that the power of media with authority positioning, someone saw his TV interview and now got a lady interested in becoming a client. And Renee said that the first 2 action steps of using this increased her response from booked appointments from webinar 300%. So that's huge. And then Brett mentioned the Authority Hub. When you have this authority positioning portfolio, to be able to have all of those items in one place. Yes, your website, that's great, but a lot of times people, check out your website and then here's a link over to your YouTube and they get, often distracted. But this Authority Hub is one place where all of your authority positioning content sits. It directs people then to your social media, then to your website and all that, but it just becomes this Authority Hub. You can get some information on that on My Authority Hub. And I even include it as a bonus in the packages that I offer. And think about, an annuity sale or a sale with one of your large programs, 12, 18,000 in commission or more. One sale picks up the cost of any of these programs. And so I'm not even going to get into the cost of programs because it's extremely affordable, but I just wanted to kind of end with this graphic because the focus of authority positioning is getting you talking about the education that you do for your clients. Because remember, your program is very intricate and you can't just have one conversation and ding, people get it. Maybe you need to have 3 different podcast interviews going on in detail on 3 specific aspects of your program. And you're using that to educate your audience. And then you're on the TV interviews, interjecting some of those same main points. And then all of that with the press and the media and all of that is now giving you that Google visibility. So this is the information on where to get more info, authoritypositioningcoach.com/mass authority, or then my main site, MikeSaunders360.com. So Brett, through those points there, does that bring up any added points you'd like to make or questions you want to have clarified based on what I do and how it benefits what your advisors do with your program.
Great question, Mike. And by the way, amazing presentation and overview. I think the big ones that really stuck out for me is credibility and trust are like currency. Like money, it can be traded, created, borrowed, and help people become, change their perception before they experience or encounter the message. I think that's key. I mean, I've seen it with my own podcast itself, right? And yeah, going on major podcasts and being able to be the authority and the expert in that area, which creates. I mean, they think it's 85 or 90% as effective being on a video or a podcast or a TV, production than it is in person, right? So it's pretty close to just the person, and then you get to lean and borrow that credibility from whoever's having you on that show, and even so, I find that if the person who's really sharp and respected that they view and respect, they're asking you these questions and they're watching them be persuaded and influenced by you as the expert, it helps to also, compound that credibility to that person who's watching. So yeah, all of those things. And you're right. I think the big, there's another study that's out that 85% of the reasons people make a decision to buy is on personal brand. So think of it like, if there's a Morgan Stanley or if there's a Merrill Lynch or if there's a Raymond James or all of these different things or these independents that are more and more, popular these days versus the big box houses that used to be the main ones. More advisors are going that way because they realize that it's the personal relationship and really it's the personal brand that's making the decision. It's not necessarily the company behind that. Now you need to have the tools and you need to have, hopefully the team, the system to help everything, but this is really going to elevate your personal brand, which will elevate your ability to influence, make an impact, win more business.
100%, Brett. And if you ever thought about something that you know how to do just inside and out, but yet your friend can't even start the first step, it's because we have experience in that. So in your program, there are so many nuances and facets and intricacies and connections that if you were to explain it all to in one, conversation to someone, their eyes glaze over at point two. So I think that to be able to have some of those main points chunked down into specific content where you're teaching that content, teaching that content, teaching that content, and one builds on the other, but teaching it on authoritative platforms. Now that message is really penetrating through the sales resistance and they're understanding it better. And that trust is elevated, which then sets the stage for the Zoom call or the in-person call. You can still blow the deal on the Zoom call or the personal call. So you still got to know your stuff. It's just that you got to have some little extra help to get some more at bats.
No, 100%. Yeah, the little I can trust. And I like the strategic thought about that. Like, going on shows with this is the main topic we're going to discuss today, because you've already talked about the other two main ones on the previous shows. And then when you provide an email sequence with the top three objections or the biggest three myths or the biggest things that hold people back, and now it's really strategic. And by the time they get there, they're like, oh, yeah, that's the questions I had. These are the three major reasons why people wouldn't perhaps, like for example, for our strategy, we know what they are. They're the legality and is it too good to be true, the trustee and the controls, and then the fees, and does the ROA make sense, right? And so we know how to produce content on that all the time. And what you're saying, Mike, is you do the same thing with advisors and you help them to strategize. It's not just about getting on the shows or getting onto the Fox News or the ABC or the NBC. It's about being strategic with how you package it and what you're saying. So when it's delivered, by the time they show up on the call, they're 50, 60, 70% of the way there.
100%. Because if we had 100 advisors on the line with us right now and we opened it up and said, okay, yes or no, who in here loves to sell? Most people would say, no, nobody really loves to sell, but they love to make a sale and they love to bring in new business. But in reality, they want people that are pre-sold from referral, from being educated, coming to them, Zoom, in person, whatever the case is, to go, hey, I think I understand this. Can you just help me put this together? And then you explain a couple points and they're like, let's go. That right there is the scenario that authority positioning brings to you when done the right way, because it's not, here's this flyer, click here to buy now. It's a teaching element on platforms of authority.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Love it, Mike. Any last thing before we go?
No, I think that's about it. If you want that free copy of the book, MikeSaunders360.com. If you want to set up a call to chat with me, you can find it right there as well. But my whole program is there at the 30 Position Coach / Mass Authority. All of the interviews I've done on the ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox, all of the program details, all the pricing is all right there. But I'm happy to help any way I can.
Amazing. And for those who may be watching this or a friend has shared this with you, make sure you mention, Mike Saunders' name and my name if you're coming to me asking about this so I know where you found it. And then also if you have a client that's exiting a Bitcoin business, real estate, massive exit, public-private stock, and have massive capital gains taxes or estate tax challenges, make sure to also go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn how to build a capital gains tax exit plan with our team to be able to attract and unlock more AUM and make a big impact for your clients because they're facing 20, 30, 40, 50% in capital gains tax and depreciation recapture when they sell. If they don't have a plan. And if they don't have a plan, they're probably not going to sell. And that means you're probably going to get the AUM. And that's why we want to help you build your business, make a bigger impact, and everybody wins. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com for that. With that being said, I'm Brett Swartz. He's Mike Saunders, and we'll talk to everyone again real soon. Bye, everybody.